Hey YouTube, it's Mike here. This is my stock Tecumseh massey, and you can kind of see there's the battery, gas tank, and how it sits in there. You see how that matches up. And then over here we got my one with the 6.5 Honda clone in there. And you can see how it sits, no battery, straight pull cord, little fuel tank on top. Actually makes for a pretty short motor, and we get the stack on there. Had this idea. I just set it in here, moving some stuff around. That is, I believe, 16 horse old updraft carburetor with the starter generator on it there. The big old 16 horse Briggs, made in Milwaukee, but having trouble verifying it's supposed to be 16 horse, but she's a big brute. If you look, like if I just pan directly around, there's the Massey with the 1 gallon tank on top. So with the Tecumseh and the 1 gallon fuel tank on top. And then if I pan over to here, there's the Honda clone 6.5 with the fuel tank on top. It's even shorter yet. Then there's this thing, no fuel tank, is big. I don't know what it would take to line up some pulleys and stick it in here, but man, I bet you she'd be a big pile of fun. I know lots of guys like to do pulley swaps, but this might be pulley swap to the extreme. Heck, maybe I should be using the main drive pulley here for the generator, because that'd make for a big brute. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think. I've had a few ideas for this one. It's been chopped up. I'm assuming somebody put a 8 horse Briggs in it because the Tecumsehs had a tendency for blowing up, and that was kind of the favorite to hack and chop into them. I do have a stock hood and grill. But with this motor, I don't know if that does me any good or not. I might just have to do something kind of custom. But yeah, things like my snowblower and whatever, I mean, the 7 horse will run it. This thing here just about twists everything apart. Or I just double up the speeds and hope the bearings hold. It might be kind of interesting. The other thought I had was just, I mean, I can pretty well, even in my physical state, this one here, with the Honda in it, I can pick it up one arm and throw it around in the front. This one here is kind of a two-hander, but not really overly impossible to pick up and throw around. This thing here, I carried the motor to it, but that was kind of barely. So that gets me all excited. I'm trying to think how to describe some of my other engine options. I do have a 5 horse Honda. I think that's, I mean, a real Honda 5 horse off a rototiller, so it revs out a little higher, so I could leave the gear ratio lower and scream the engine a little faster. This old bag here, it just, I mean, it doesn't, I'm sure I could rev it a lot higher, but it seems to not want to rev real high. And but it's a real torque monger. This was out of a Simplicity I had, and I was pulling 4 harrows through a field, and it stripped out a gearbox, and I don't think I can justify rebuilding it for the price. And I haven't seen anything else even kind of similar around. I know they would exist, but that Simplicity had some other issues as well. The motor was about the best part of it, but the wheels and, you know, the main transmission and the motor were fine. Just about everything else was just completely kaput. So that's that thought. Maybe I'll cut away here quick and come back over by some other motor options I've considered, and what I'll do is I'll get your guys' opinion on whether this would work best, or I'll show you some of the other thoughts. So this is a 12 horse vertical, right? Yeah. Don't get confused now. You're recording. So anyway, this tractor here, the rear end blew out of her, and the mower deck was junk. But I tell you, this little 12 horse, for whatever reason, I mean, it's always ran just 100%. I should have actually brought a battery over with me and chucked it in. One of my thoughts, of course, this is 12 horse Briggs, and the shaft would be going the wrong way to go in that Massey. But one of the thoughts I had is I've saved one of the base plates. I don't know if you're watching this and you're into mowers and messing around with whatever junk you can find like I am, but I've had a couple of those rear engine mowers where they have the either use, I think they've all been about 10 horse, but they have the engine here, and then it's bolted to a plate that's kind of in the back of the unit, and then somewhere in, I think it's usually around in this area here, there's a transmission that takes, and it's just like a 5-speed transmission. There's a shaft off the side with a sprocket on it that would go back to the axle, or down to the axle, I guess, because this would be backwards. This would be like ahead, right? You would sit here. Transmission, nope, I'm lying. Yeah, motor, but then the axle's here. Something to that effect. Anyway, doesn't really matter. I've saved a couple of those plates actually now, because I always had this idea that, and I've got axles and stuff too, but I've often thought about taking a motor like this, putting the 5-speed on it. I can maybe mess with the gearings, and then run that instead of having either the sprocket, because I think, especially because I have kids around, I would prefer to go with a pulley and then run a belt back, however I tension it. Chains just always seem more brutal when they take fingers off. So there was that thought, would be to put this in as a power unit, but then drive off with a 5-speed transmission, and then I could have, you know, if I got 3 gears and reverse in my Massey, and then I'd have 5 gears before that, and I could split and have all sorts of fun. I could have a super low and a super high, and this motor would have a lot lower profile, but I would have to definitely modify the frame mounting on the Massey more, and I'm up in the air how much cutting and welding and stuff. I mean, I guess the one Massey that I'm thinking of working on, I could do more, just for the fact that it's already been hacked and chopped. I just have this thing about changing things on older equipment to any great degree, so that if I ever want to put it back to original, maybe I could. But we'll see. This is one of the thoughts, like I say, and yeah, I'm gonna see here. I'm gonna go over to my shelf of motors and go over the last option thoughts. All right. So here we can see this is out of a Toro. There's the big hole for the pulley on the engine, bolt holes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then back here was the transmission. We are currently right side up, but there was this is the part of the foot plate and whatever, because back here's the hitch originally. And I think, see, I should have almost left this intact more. Somewhere in here there were shafts and pulleys and whatever for idlers, and I had all that stuff on here. But I kept it just because, I mean, it's just easier for if you ever wanted to do something like that. So I don't know if you can picture it. I guess this is where the chain ran through to the rear axle, which would have been somewhere, right, it bolted on the frame that was underneath here. But it was down in this area here, if that makes sense. And the transmission was here. So I could basically motor, transmission, and then line this up in here with the pulleys for my massey, in whichever direction I orientated it or whatever. I can even turn the transmission and stuff, but I just thought I kept this because I was always thinking if I wanted to do something like that, or making a go-kart even, these are just handy plates to have because it's a base that's already pre-drilled, and if you're cheap and lazy at the same time, hey, why not? Alright, next motor op. So here, this is an old, this is my motor shelf. This is an old 5-horse Tecumseh. I'm guessing it's not going to be my favorite option. This actually had come with my first Massey number 7, not as a motor to drive it, and I can't even remember now whether it was mounted on, must have been mounted on the front of the Massey to run a little sprayer pump. The pump's long since futched, but the motor's here and it did run. Turns, so that's good. This is the other idea I had here. Traded this for some scrap I had kicking around one time. It's an old Honda flathead. Now I haven't seen or even messed with. This did run some time ago. I don't even know if I can get a hold of the shaft to turn it to see. I'm not sure I'm as big of a fan of the flathead Honda. If I remember correct, they were an okay motor. Compared to when they went to the overhead valve idea, I don't think they were quite the same. Although the quality with the Hondas tends to be just a little bit better as far as I'm concerned when it comes to if you want to over rev them or whatever. And I mean, it's got this air filter thing here that looks cool just like that, and then of course it's got the trumpet looking cover piece you can put on it, and the exhaust here uses a motorcycle style flange, and I have a few of those I've saved over the years. So I mean, there's some cool options to do there, but I'm not sure. I always thought for the advantage of getting one more horsepower over the 7-horse, or even going with an 8-horse Tecumseh, the shaft height on the drive shaft here it's higher up than the 7-horse, which means I got to do a bunch of pulley jockeying to get things to line up, and I was never sure whether I wanted to do that. I originally actually got this engine to go into one of my Masseys, and I've just never, I basically started it, took a few pieces apart here and there when I was first looking at it, and then put it on the shelf, and it's been here collecting dust ever since. I have one more option I want to look at, which probably I'm never going to do, even though I think it'd be a heck of a lot of fun, but I don't think the Massey would take it. I'll show you that, and then yeah, I think that's all I have right now for options. So I don't know who's also a motorcycle geek, but if you're knowing your motorcycles much at all, this and this, as well as a bike or two that run out back, the one ran, I don't remember even, it's been so long since I messed with them. I can't remember whether there was a motor in the second one or not. Either way, if there isn't, I have one, because I have two. And plus there's one that was all together. I drove it and parked it where it is right now. It's been back there for a few years, because then I had a child, and it's been there ever since, as per life. I often, I've seen guys put different motors in. The CB750 is one of the smoothest, easiest running motors ever. CB750 Honda. These are 70s and 80s. Trying to remember, I think the one outside there's a 75, 74, something like that. So that's an option. Maybe. Almost got to put in a different axle. And of course, this has a 5-speed, no reverse. I mean, these things in the bike, I've cracked the throttle to 60 mile an hour, first gear, no problem. They rev right out. But I think if I'm going to do that, I got to build a proper full pulling tractor, which has always been kind of something I've thought of doing. Except nobody's ever given me enough money and time. And even let alone the shop facility to kind of do something like that. Because when you bolt one of these motors in with the amount of power they have, I think you want to make sure that you have the right frame build, you know. I mean, I've got other options up here. There's some carburetors, air breathers around in there. So I got some stuff for that. And being as I'm right here in the shelf, I'll show you, these are the transmissions I have. The 5 speeds that came out of those rear engine lawnmowers is the one. And then there's the other one. I can't remember even what the lawnmowers were. So, as far as I can figure, those are kind of my options. I don't even know why I mean, I don't know how soon I'll get to putting something together, but I guess I thought I'd put it out there. See if you guys leave me a comment. Let me know what you think, because it's one of those things where you know, sometimes I just get inspired and see something and it all bolts together real easy. Right now, with what I have on my property, there's nothing except for that 5-horse Honda that would just bolt in and go. And that's kind of going under horsepower. The other thing I do have is there's a guy I've measured up. He's got a an 8-horse Tecumseh. The shaft height would work. The biggest trick with it, I think, is the fact that I'm taking the whole snowblower with it, and so I got to take it apart. I don't know. I pulled it over and everything seemed good, but I didn't start it. We'll see. Either way, I mean, that should be a good bolt-in motor, even if I want to just not use the original 7-horse Tecumseh for the winter. Just because the one original I have that's never been touched, it doesn't burn oil or anything, but it's not new. It's been used, and I don't know if it's got full power or not. It never died on me. It just I don't know. I just feel bad running the old thing. I feel like it should have a chance to retire. And then the one I've got in the original Tecumseh in my one Massey is supposed to have been rebuilt, but that thing burns just about equal parts oil and gas. So unless I mess something up and it's actually a 2-stroke, I'm going to guess the rebuild didn't take very well, or they may have told me more of a story than I was looking for. But anyway, that's some ideas. Like I say, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think, and we'll put it to a vote, and I'll decide. How do you like that? Yeah, see what happens. It'd be fun to do something cool. Probably more apt to get into a puller style tractor, if anything, more than a racer. Although I would love to try to come up with something that's a good combo. Maybe one day somebody will put together a real garden tractor meet where you'll have the same tractors in their own weight categories doing pulls as well as races, and then you could really see who can build the one that rounds out the best. And heck, maybe even have a category where you do all three, cut some grass and whatever. You know, maybe cutting grass would be like an art. You'd be judged on it. Who knows? But I don't know why. I always think it'd be cool to do something that would kind of do it all. Something where I could go to a little lawnmower race and not come in dead last, or go to a pull and have it walk away with whatever. But anyway, those are some thoughts. Thanks. Talk to you.